So Lorraine, this is a wonderful opportunity for us to get together and to record this interview and put it on our YouTube page and literally have it forever so that other daughters can listen to it for years to come. And so I wanted to start off by just asking you how long you have been a daughter.
I think this July will make 27 years. But
Wow.
time does go by.
Yeah.
It's a long
So,
time.
so what is it that drew you to become a daughter in the first place?
When I read that question, and just on reflecting, it seems as if I've always been a daughter in spirit or prepared to be a daughter, because I was always active in the church, and that might have been my generation growing up. That's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
But from Sunday school, and then prior to 12 years old, Sunday school, and then once I was 12 and baptized, um, I became not only attended Sunday school, I became the Sunday school secretary at 12 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I taught the 4 and 5-year-olds from the time I was 12 until I went off to college. Uh, that meant that I had to go to Bible study every Friday night with adults, because what they did was present the lesson that you were going to present that Sunday morning.
Mm.
Uh, so um, I was in, don't tell anyone, the junior choir, the junior ushers. And so once I came home and continued being active in the church, a friend of mine in the church who was an artist, Katie Wright, had friends over in Good Shepherd who were daughters.
Mm.
And this was maybe the top of the 60s, somewhere between, I guess, around between 1960 and 1963. And so she took me over one day to meet these daughters, and they would go to the hospital and check the register to see who was in the hospital ill, who was an Episcopalian, pick up the room numbers and go to the rooms and pray
Mm.
for them. And that was my introduction to the daughters, and I thought that was such a wonderful thing to do, because then you can't do that now, but then you could go in and they would let you check, and you if
Yeah.
a member was in a double room and the other room was not other person was not an Episcopalian, then uh, they would ask if they wanted prayer, and we would pray for them too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my introduction, was I guess kind of following these daughters around,
Yeah.
watching.
What an amazing way to serve.
Yeah. So still we didn't have uh, a chapter at our church.
Mm.
And several years later, I think one other person who is now deceased, Ann Hill, had probably had that same experience with Kate and these daughters at Good Shepherd. And so eventually, Ann kind of touched bases with me, and we gathered up some ladies in the church that we thought were of the same spirit, and
Mm.
chartered the daughters at St. John the Baptist.
Mhm.
But that was almost, yeah, all, uh, almost 30 years after my introduction.
Wow. So
Uh,
you were obviously one of the charter members of
yes, yes, I
St. John
was
the
a
Baptist.
charter. I'm a charter member by
Yeah.
chapter.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So in looking at your years as of being a daughter, how has this impacted your faith walk?
I I think um, what I think what it has made me do is to depend more on God's grace. Um, I seem to know even more that no matter what happens, I'm in His hands. I have His favor, and that all will be well. I think somewhere along the way, after becoming a daughter, I became less anxious about things in life. Some that you control and mess up yourself, and then some that you don't have any control over. Uh, I think I've grown more. I don't know how. Uh, is just having faith in God that He will take care of me. I'm more dependent uh, on God to be taken care of because He loves me, and I think that's the difference. One of the difference I see, and one of the things that being a daughter has made me more aware of. Mhm. With
Okay,
this,
thank you.
if if the Lord cares for the lilies in the field,
Mhm.
you know how
Yeah.
much more will He care for you. Mhm.
Mhm. Oh, Lorraine, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's
Mhm.
wonderful. And what would you say is your most memorable time of being a daughter? Maybe there was something that just really sticks out for you.
I thought about this because we've had many moments of prayer time because before COVID, we met once a week in the small chapel at our church, and we prayed for people for all circumstances.
Mhm.
Uh, Members would put requests in. Many times we were praying for people that we really didn't even know, maybe who didn't even belong to the church. And I'm sure we prayed for a lot of people who didn't know we were praying for them.
Mhm.
Maybe somewhere in life they must have known that somebody was praying for them, but not necessarily the daughters. But we
Mhm.
so I have memories of those times, especially when members would check back with us, and and they would call it, or they had to let us know that their prayer had been answered, or that they were thankful for us for praying for them.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things that we did, I guess you would call it a service, a project that I
Mhm.
really like, and I keep saying, why can't we get back to this? We had a noonday Bible study on Thursday. It was the church had noonday Bible study. We had two Bible studies, one in the evening, but we had a noonday on Thursdays. And
Mhm.
so the daughters on the fourth Thursday made an effort uh, to pick up members of the church who were like semi shut in or in assisted living, elderly and couldn't drive,
Mhm.
uh, maybe couldn't make it to the early service because they couldn't get all of their medication together and get dressed,
Mhm.
maybe thought sitting through the 10 o'clock service was more than they could handle. But we would pick them up on 4 Thursdays and bring them to a Bible study that was also a, a, a brief Thanksgiving where we had communion. And then we served them lunch. So those who could stay could take more than an hour.
Mhm.
That would give them a chance to socialize. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
once we, hmm,
that's just beautiful.
yeah, once we started this, we found that many people just in the community who were not members of our church, but knew we had this activity at noonday. So I'm sure about a third of the attendees were people who belonged to other churches around us, maybe no church at all on a regular basis,
Mhm.
attended that. And I thought that was such a wonderful thing for daughters to do.
Mm.
Uh, but our church has been through so many different changes with priests, and then COVID is like it's almost now since COVID, like another life,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
COVID was another world. Yeah.
that's
And
true.
so
That's true.
we are not doing that right now. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to it because now our church, right before COVID, we had begun with what we call dinner church, and
Mhm.
that's 6:30 in the evening. So
Mm.
that kind of rule out people who are semi shut in. And it was just
Mhm.
getting started in COVID. And I think last month we've just started it back up.
Mm.
So I'm just waiting to, matter of fact, I think this week, Thursday, we'll do it. And
Oh,
maybe I'll
wonderful.
see see if that has the kind of effect that
Mhm.
day Bible study and communion time had.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, that should be interesting to see.
mm,
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, in terms of prayer service and evangelism, how
mm.
have those changed over time for you, or have they?
Yeah, in terms of prayer, I think my prayer time became more intentional.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, but I think before, I guess I prayed non-intentional, just um, no, well, I said my evening prayers and maybe during the day. As
Mhm.
a daughter, I changed, and it appears that my day goes better if I do my prayers in the morning before I ever begin anything.
Mm. Yeah.
So uh, my prayer time is more intentional, more set. And I probably find myself sometimes saying a prayer all through the day. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes just being thankful uh, for who God is and how He cares for me. Uh, Sometimes crying out for help in situations
Mhm.
that I probably have no control over. Um, but I think mainly in that prayer thing, being more intentional
Mhm.
with my prayer. Now, the other you said evangelism.
And yeah, and
Uh,
service too. How
um,
has that changed?
well, in the service part, I think I'm still serving. Uh, and I said, like, serving is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and my husband used to tell me before his passing, because I would always be into this, into that, into that. And
Yeah.
he would say, baby, why don't you let somebody else do that sometime? Why are you trying to do? And I tell him that I, I have been gifted, that I can do this. And
Mm-hmm.
because I can do it, I ought to do it. And so that's what I do, and serving is, sometimes I have to catch myself, because and sometimes I'm jumping in doing without even being asked. If I see something that needs to be done, I just
Yeah.
grab it and go for it if I think that that is my gift, or that I can do that. And
Mm-hmm.
Nadine, sometimes I look back over my life and I think about things, situations that I've been exposed to. And so if an opportunity arises for me to use what I learned from that situation, then I think I said, God was preparing me then for this, you know.
Mm. Wow.
And so that's
Mhm.
what I mean. I said gifted, but it's almost like, it appears like from early on in my childhood, things that I was exposed to, um, even unplanned things that I was exposed to, just exposed because uh, I was born there. I was there at that time. And
Mhm.
and so when an opportunity arises for me to use what I learned in those early situations, I I have this feeling that that's why God let that happen to me early on, so that I could be of service now.
Mhm. Mm.
And so, um, some
Clearly,
people
it sounds
say
like,
serving is what I do.
yeah, clearly it sounds like you recognize when you're being nudged by God to do things.
Yes. And there is another daughter in my church, and sometimes we tell people, they say, well, what do daughters do? And we just say, well, we do what we do what daughters do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, wow, you've said some really rich things this evening.
Now,
And
with the
I'm,
evangelism,
mhm.
uh, I don't think now probably that I usually, if I meet anyone and have a conversation long enough, and I, I will, before departing from them, I will ask them where do they worship, and invite them to church.
Mhm.
Um, for a number of years, I've chaired membership in my church, so
Oh,
I, I'm
mhm.
usually one of the people who uh, I'm in church every Sunday, so I immediately know when someone is a stranger, and
Uh-huh.
I try to greet them before service to find out if they know how to follow the service, or to offer them to sit with me,
Mhm.
um, and maybe take them to coffee hour when we were having coffee hour. So, but away from church, um, all of my friends know that that I'm in the hands of Christ, and if they
Mhm.
talk to me long enough, they get a chance to be invited to worship with me. So,
That's just wonderful. Well, that's an example of letting Christ's light shine through you to others,
mhm,
Lorraine.
mhm, mhm.
So, and is there a question that you wish that I would have asked? Maybe it's an area of your journey that you would like to share, but we didn't touch on?
Well, no, just, um, you know, December 26th, I turned 91.
Wow.
And,
Hmm.
and when I think of where God has brought me from, just a little country girl born on the farm. Daddy was a sharecropper, but
Hmm.
had the foresight to get out of Shelman, Georgia. Um, and when I look back, think about where I started, and where I have come, all I can say is that I'm wonderfully blessed. I'm wonderfully blessed. And my prayer is, and if you too would pray for me, um, that others will get a glimpse of Christ
Mhm.
through me. Um, um, or be there will be something about my service to them, my prayer to them, for them, that will draw them closer to the Lord. That is my prayer.
Mhm.
There's nothing left but just pray that I continue to grow closer to God,
Mhm.
and and uh and and that I can be one who draw others to God, and so that all of us can continue to bask in God's love and in His grace.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, Lorraine, you are a blessing to us.
Mhm.
And what you've described about your life comes through from you to us.
Mhm.
And um, I've only been a daughter for 10 years. To hear you talk about how it's enriched your life is really um, wonderful to me. And I
Mhm.
appreciate it. And I really think that everyone who listens to this is going to feel your faith,
Mhm.
and what has changed in you over the years. And anybody who meets you, we can feel that warmth and your light coming through. And I know God's with you, Lorraine.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for sharing some thoughts with us tonight.
Mhm.
Really appreciate it. And as I said, this is going to go into our gallery, if you will, of videos, and people that have walked for a long time in as daughters, and will share their stories. And yours is one of them. And I thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me to do this. So wonderful. And
Well,
say a prayer that I see you at the spring gathering. Uh,
yes, yes. I'm glad that you're planning to come, and uh, Lord willing, we'll both be there.
all right.
So in the meantime, you have a wonderful Easter week, and it's coming up fast. And
Fast, almost too fast.
yes, and thank you. You're a blessing and to us, and I love you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Nadine, and I love you, and I hope you have a holy Lent also. Holy Lent and a happy Easter.
Thank you. All right, I just stopped the recording.
All right.